Now then, people, good afternoon and welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. Hope you're all doing well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get hold of Joe for the final word, and we always like to hear from Joe, the voice of reason. So I nailed him down to today, 12:30, to chat about Leeds United and, more importantly, what needs to change for Leeds United. Now, of course, people may assume we're throwing baby out with the bathwater. I've said it on a number of occasions myself, but I do think there is a conversation maybe that we need to have about certain opposition that will come up against this season that we're seeing the same mistakes from. And I have sampled a hell of a lot of content, actually. I've just been listening to All Stats Aren't We. I listened to Leeds That. I've listened to everyone else's musings, and everyone's coming up with the same thing of like, when we come up against a low block, we do struggle. And I know Joe's obviously been critical at times last season, even when winning games, that sometimes the performances are what they need to be. And of course, performance over points over a period of time will always give you a mean of where you are. Hence why XG is a stat, for example. If you continue to create chances, eventually they'll go in. If you continue to perform a certain way, eventually it'll revert back to the norm. Take Chelsea, for example. Recent time, they put 6 past Wolves with a terrible XG. Now they've beaten Bournemouth 1-0. You know, this is how it is. So performance over points over the course of a season. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. But before we do, everyone smash a like and get your comments in, and we'll pull a few up a little bit later on. But let me find out how Jury's getting on in that very dark room, mate. You look like a floating head if it weren't for that white hood. But I think it's just the background. It's no drama. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, having a decent weekend outside of the Leeds result, which I've made a deliberate decision. As soon as the Leeds game is over, I go out now. Leave my phone and I stay off Twitter and I go out. And it's helped me compartmentalize it a little bit. Although this week I did a review straight after the game because it was a weird one. The more I watched the game, the more I kind of found myself picking my phone up at times, going, I don't see anything happening in this second half, but it could happen and they're doing nothing. And I'm not overly stressed about this game because Burnley are doing nothing, you know, but neither are we. And then the game finished. You're kind of like,
yeah,
that was boring. And
the second half was brutal, wasn't it?
So dull. So dull. Yeah. But this has been something that's been said, and you touched on it there. The Leeds United performances in general, if you take the entire time under Daniel Farke, they haven't been hugely entertaining games. There's been the odd outlier. We've had these odd sprinklings of moments where there was a bit of good football for 10 minutes, or we did really well in one particular game. But outside of that, it's been pretty dour kind of football. And I think we excuse it and we accept it, and we come on here and we say things after games like very professional performance by Leeds, very professional performance. And I think that excuses the performance, which is not great, did enough, won the game.
Yeah.
But this is a Leeds United team, and from what I've been reading this morning and the pressure that's on Farke and the conversations that are being had are the 49ers expect to be in the Premier League next season.
I think we as a fan base as well.
We have to.
I expect.
And if I strip back the stuff from the summer completely, and I look at Daniel Farke's squad, and I look at the wage bill of that squad, I'm going to talk about Leicester as well, the wage bill as well. And then you look at, even though we didn't get the 10 and didn't get the bigger players, we still spent more money than anybody else in the championship, on top of a side that was still a very top-end championship side anyway. And the performances this season have all been pretty dour and fine. Most cases fine, and we've been on here twice this year and said professional. But when the result doesn't come with the performance, then the professional tag falls away, and you're left with, that was a really dull game where Leeds created very little. And that's the problem. We are over a year now into the Daniel Farke experiment or time at Leeds United. I'm not saying sack the guy, but I am saying at some stage there's got to be significant improvement from what we saw last year. And there are times this year where I don't see it. I don't like Daniel Farke's excuses. They annoyed me last year. They're already starting to annoy me this year. The one around the international break is the latest one. Daniel, other clubs have players that go international duty as well, but they all seem to come back and be okay. Why is it just Leeds? Look at the Premier League. You want to be a Premier League club next season? You'll have to deal with this all season, as all of them do. And yet they all come back and can manage to put a functional performance together and win games. Leeds just seem to write off these games as off international break. So
did we not put in a functional performance? Did we not put in a functional performance?
I thought the first half was fine. The second half, we did nothing. I watched Lockie's videos this week, and I think Lockie's nailed it on the head. Where's the bite gone from Leeds? Where's the niggle? Where's the determination to drag something out of a game? Where's the guts, the balls to go and grab the game by the scruff of the neck and start doing it? It's just not there. And then the one player we have who tries to do it hurts himself trying to do it. And you're like, we're not a physical side. We're not a tough team. And when we try to do it, we hurt ourselves. So like, there's bits that are missing for me. Like there needs to be, I think there's question marks over Farke's substitutions. Again, I didn't understand taking off Brendan Aronson and creating a huge hole in the middle of the ball at all after that. It didn't make any sense at all. He's determined to prove he's right with Joel Piroe, and he's not. He's wrong, and he needs to get over it and move past it. Even playing him as a second striker now completely upsets the balance of how Leeds play, taking a player out of the number 10 position. So for me, there are question marks around what he's doing. There's question marks over, has it got better since last year? Has it improved enough? Are we seeing too many similarities to last season? I've heard from watching the final word and the reaction. I think Evie said it as well about deja vu. We shouldn't be seeing that. We shouldn't be seeing that 2 seasons into Daniel Farke being in charge of this team, especially with that team that's on that pitch. Regardless what anyone thinks about it, number 10. And number 10 isn't what's missing from that team necessarily. Just because we don't have a 10 doesn't mean we don't win games. That team is good enough without a number 10. We have a £25 million American who can play in that position, who was taken off the park. So he was playing well at that stage. For me, anyway, was playing well. So there are question marks around him. I think that kind of stuff brings the pressure. Is it better than last year? Probably not. That brings pressure. Have we seen significant changes? No. Are we still talking about the same things we talked about last year? Drop off, especially in the second half. Bad substitutions, timing's wrong, players are wrong. We're in the same position. Low block. Can't break down a low block. We are back to talk about the exact same things that annoyed people last year about this. And that's where I think the pressure then comes from, because it's repetition of the same issues we had last year. And where's the flowing football? When a Leeds got to thump somebody? When's this, steamroller that should be this juggernaut that should be Leeds United going through the league? When's that going to kick in? Or do we have to wait a month and a half every single season before Leeds start to do something? I also saw someone say Daniel Farke historically starts seasons very badly. That's a massive question mark around the manager then, isn't it? Like, if there's a consistency to this, then it's you. It's you then. So what are you doing to fix that and change that? Or are you accepting that that's just the way it is? And I personally hate that phrase of just the way it is. If it is just the way it is, change it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like that then. I mean, before we get into little nuances around certain aspects of the game, and everyone keep getting your comments because I've starred a few of them so we can discuss them. I'm
not saying sack him, by the way, just to be really
no. So I was gonna ask you. Yeah, I know you're not saying that. I guess it's more a case of like how long, what needs to change, like what we're looking at. Because I do worry, looking at the opposition between now and the next break. The next break, there's some tough opposition in there. We've got to go to Cardiff, and again, there's been another mention today that he still could get sacked, which worries me because I don't want him to get sacked, but because I can't deal with a new manager bounce and Neil Warnock or something walking through that door. So even if they do get a new manager, we should win that.
Isn't it?
Yeah, at that time. You've got Coventry. We know Coventry are going to do that at our place. We've got Norwich City, and we also have Sunderland, who've been flying and won't be an easy game. Although I do think transitional games suit Leeds United. We saw that against Sheffield Wednesday. We'll probably do all right against Sunderland. But we do have some tough games coming up or you may get managers that are a little bit more flexible, looking at it and saying, well, look what Burnley did. Look what happened at the back end of last season. Let's just make ourselves hard to break down. Do you put I put a lot of credence in the fact that it was Burnley, because I think lesser quality of teams we do break down, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that. And yeah, there's loads for you to answer in there. Sorry, Joe.
That's fine. We should have won the game in the first half. There's no excuses. We did. I mean, yeah. Sometimes when you look at match reactions, people tend to focus on everything that happened in the second half and forget the first half completely. Like, there was an awful lot of like, we're just not breaking teams down, we're not creating chances. We created more than enough in the first half to win that game comfortably. Mateo Joseph, 100% has to score. Yeah. Has to. No excuse. You are 1v1 dead straight on goal with the goalkeeper. There is no better opportunity to score a goal for a striker unless it's a tap-in. Like, that is meat and drink for a striker all day, and he just gets it completely wrong. Opens his body up way too much and doesn't bend it. Goes for a spectacular kind of bendy one around him and fluffs it. So that has to go in. That has to go in. Different game then. Then Nonto. So we can't break down a low block yet. Brendan Aronson does a lovely no-look pass. We've seen that's the second time we've seen him do that. Beautiful pass. Splits the and as we said again last week or week before, Nonto's offside an awful lot this season, but he's looking to make runs in behind. Now, I'm okay with him being offside as long as he gets that timing right eventually. And he times it perfectly, gets in behind. Lovely ball through. 1v1, roll it past the keeper. Just roll it around the side of him, kicks it straight at him. Should be 2. Game over. Game over.
Yeah.
And then there's a shot from distance, a penalty claim. Can't rely on referees, so the penalty claim is redundant for me. We should have had a penalty. We didn't get it. We should have still done enough. And I thought in the first half we did more than enough. And then the second half starts and we just see the same thing from Leeds again. Just a drop off. Just let everyone sit back and let's take it slowly. And we have never been good when we play the ball slowly. And I'd love to know who the analysts in Leeds are and what they're telling Farke, because anyone with any kind of a footballing background can look at this Leeds United side over the last year and a bit of that sample size of data and go, Leeds United are a team that have to play a tempo. Have to. Plays into all of their strengths and helps to cover the weaknesses they have. But we don't. We go slow. And that's part of the reason around this inability to break down a low block. Because we are so slow in building up, that gives the opposition time to get together, to drop, get compact, because Leeds aren't going to kick the ball from the goalkeeper straight out. So the front 3 lads, if you can go and press him, and then we'll organise ourselves back here. By the time the ball gets to the halfway line, we've got at least a minute and a half. We'll all be sorted and organised and there's no gaps. And then the further Leeds walk up, the more that front 3 drop off into the middle of the park and make it hard for them to get past. And then Leeds go left and right and left and right. And it's nice and it's nice. And nobody does anything with the ball. And we end up doing that for 60 minutes. There's nothing for the crowd to get interested in. There's nothing to push an atmosphere in the stadium. It's the difference in the first half and the second half, but we've seen it so often with this Leeds United side of starting the first half brilliantly. First 10 minutes, excellent. Last 5 minutes, first half, brilliant. Right, second half, let's kick on. We don't. We don't come out in the second half. You know, but Middlesbrough this year, Portsmouth this year already, there's 2. You know, second half, just complete collapse. And we're doing it again. And why that collapse in second half is there, I don't know. Because Burnley had very little to do in that second half to defend Leeds. Like, all they did was sit in. There was no last-ditch tackles. There was no, big dives across someone to block a shot in the last second. There was nothing. There was drop in and sit, and Leeds just won't get past us, and we didn't. Yeah. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah. No, I hear you, Joe. There is. And I want to go through loads of comments because we've got loads in, and obviously everyone's got an opinion on it, and it's great to see some that are coming in. Some I agree with, some I don't. Michael said Leeds need to take Joseph out for the Cardiff game. Where do you sit on this? Because I spoke to Gary last night from Talking Shot. He mentioned bringing Pirro in. Could even be a conversation that Bamford might be fit enough now. I'm not advocating that, but is it a lot of pressure on very young shoulders? And that's why some of us maybe mentioned we should have probably brought in a backup striker, someone to help shoulder the burden.
Yeah.
It's only 5 games. It's only 5 games, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get the call for a backup striker, but I would look at this from another perspective. I'm bringing in another striker, and this is where you've got to park your fan emotion, I suppose, for a moment and look at it and go, if you're a chairman of a football club, a random football club, you know the budgets, you know the money, you know everything that's there, you know the restrictions that you've got, and the manager comes to you, and the manager has already been given, he's got Pat Bamford, he wants to keep him. Thinks he's important, and he has said that. So that's his decision. It's the manager's decision to hang on to him. We're hanging on to him, fine, keep him. So you've got one. You got Mateo Joseph, who the club rate very, very highly and see as the future, but he's not going to stick around if he's not playing. So you got 2 now. You spent 10 million quid on Joel Piroe. 9 or 10. You can play them both. But you wanted him. And we gave you 10 million to go and get him. You've got 3. And then the manager comes to you and says, I need another striker. Like, going, hang on a second, pal. You wanted to keep your man. You need to have him. And we bought you him. What do you want us to do here? We're not going to keep buying you players because the ones that you wanted don't work. That's your job. Your job is to now make them perform. His job is to and the biggest one that drives me nuts is Joel Piroe can't press. Daniel, you're a coach. Get him to press. Work on it in training. You have him every single day of the week. It's not like an amateur coach who has a player maybe once a week to try and work on stuff with him. He's still young enough. He's 24 years of age. Get out on the pitch and work with him on pressing. Get him to press or say to him, you will not play for this club unless you start pressing End of story. It's just for me, it's a bullshit excuse. So you're left in a situation where it's Joseph who has to play up front, but then that's who Farke wanted. At no point did Farke say he wanted a 9. At no point has he come out and said he wanted a 9. So he has to be back with the decision that he's made. The issue with Joseph for Cardiff is if you play him against Cardiff, you might score a couple and might really get him going. Or you take him out of the firing line against Cardiff and you put Piero in, who I think will probably score against Cardiff. And Piero might actually do well as number 9 in this new kind of system because a lot more balls will come into the box and have been. So it might suit Piero better. But it's a really tough call. Like I wouldn't take Joseph out because I think he scores in this game. I think this is a game that really helps the confidence. But I think Joseph's missing the first minute of the game at the weekend really affected his entire performance in the game.
Yeah.
I thought he was miles off compared to normal, but that plays in your head. And that's what we said last year about putting a young striker in with a couple of games to go. If they miss a big chance, that's going to play on their mind. And can they handle it?
You can see that now, can't you? Like why he was protected. I know not a lot of people agreed at the time, but yeah, maybe that's why. Okay, David Lamb says, my question is this: whose decision is it to play slow and not receive the pass, move, etc.? Joe mentions it a zillion times. Connor was talking about it on his channel earlier this morning, this lack of tempo.
How long have I been saying it?
Is it coming from the manager? Is it coming from the manager? Or are the players? Yeah, I suppose it has to be.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's so frequent, and he never talks about it in a press conference as a problem, which suggests to me, I've said it in my video today, it would suggest to me that it's part of his style of play.
Yeah.
Let's sit back in the first and second half and let's see how things go. I was like, sorry, boss, but that hasn't worked today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting because I listened to Berron talking on Square Ball and he mentioned that they potentially will ask about this low block thing. So it'll be interesting to see what he says in response to that. On
the tempo is the question I want to ask. Like it's, for me, looking at football, it's so easy to say when Leeds are quick and fast, they create chances, they create scoring opportunities, and when they've done it consistently, they've beaten teams pretty comfortably. But when they don't, when they slow down, and that I'd love someone to say to them, Dan, you've very two different approaches to the football. You've got this high tempo play that works really well with this squad, they create chances, and then you have the second half performance where there's a drop off and it doesn't seem to ever work for the club, and then the system of throwing people on and. It never seems to. I never understand what the plan B is. I still don't get what the second plan is if it's not working. Was a 4-4-2 at the weekend? Was that a smart move?
Yeah, I was going to ask: is it not just plan A and better? Like I don't necessarily subscribe to plan B. What's your plan B? Put a big. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, though. How I see it. I don't really.
I said this with Lockie yesterday as well, and I had a bit of this myself. I'm a possession based coach when I am coaching. I love possession, but I like high tempo possession. I like the ball to move quickly, disjoints the opposite. But again, depends on the players you've got. You can't do it with every team. I think Farke has the players to do it, but that's his style. He has to choose when we step it up and when we slow it down. But if he's got analysts in the club telling him, they should be telling him, Daniel, through these sections of the game we're at our best and these sections we're not. If he doesn't trust the team's fitness, get them fitter because they have been fitter. We know they can get fitter. So again, it's the same thing with saying, I'm not saying run around like a lunatic for 90 minutes, but pass the ball quickly. And if you look at a low block, how do you beat a low block? Google it. You either bypass it or you get past it with pace. That's it. But you have to get past the low block. When Leeds receive the ball from Meslier, the best opportunity is immediately then. That needs to go straight to a fullback immediately who needs to go bombing down the wing and get in behind them quickly. But we don't. We take it, we drop, we stop. The back four drop in. It's rolled out to Ampadu in the middle. He passes it to Rodon. He passes it to Strauch. He passes it back to Ampadu. Now the back line set. Done.
Yeah.
You're not getting it behind that now. So the second option is when the keeper gets it or from a kick out, it's passed back to the keeper, you go long over the top of the defense straight away and you bypass it, which is what Man City do quite a lot. They'll wait till they've got a kick out and they'll go long and they'll bypass the
they do go long.
Yeah,
so all right when you've got Haaland up top though.
Well, yeah, we have Joseph who's strong,
true,
direct, and you got to trust him. But it's they are the kind of the two basic ways to beat a low block: go over it or get past it quickly before they get a chance to set. But for me, it seems Leeds are very comfortable to let other teams just sort out the defense, get their shape sorted. And Lockie said it yesterday: we're too nice. And I think he's bang on the money. We are way too nice to play against. We don't get in your face. We don't surround referees. We don't surround players. We don't make it difficult. And you go back to the Bielsa side and you look at all the antics on the sideline. That team was pumped up all the time. This team isn't pumped up. This team is like,
yeah.
oh well. One of my players just got bored, and the opposition man's pointing at him and shouting at him on the ground. But I'm going to leave him over there and let him sort it out himself. Where, again, this is what Lockie said, and I just wanted to say because I thought he was bang on the money. Where's the players getting around Hannibal, surrounding him, and going, "What are you doing? Get away from him. What are you doing?"
Yeah, I hear you, mate, and I think it's a little bit embarrassing when your captain goes to do someone and ends up done himself. Like, if I'm being like, sorry, as I know he's my cat. I did think, oh, you've made yourself look alright now, because like he's just walked.
I went, yes, Ethan, and then I went, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's got to, and what I was surprised about is that no one actually then went and got some retribution either. I think Dan Moylan mentioned it as well. You do. Because, like you say, I know for a fact, as much as I was critical of his playing ability in the end, Janssen was always one, for example, who said, right, you're getting a kick next time you come round. I'm seeing there just...
the Villa game. I'm going to let you score, but I'm going to kick you on the way.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. Right, let's discuss this next point. And I think Ryan has got a point, and I'm subscribing to this. Yeah. That he still thinks we'll catch fire once everyone's in the groove. Obviously, we're having this conversation now, but we've seen it last season. We could go on a run, Joe. What do you think there is the opportunity to go on a run, having seen it before? We have to come back to the fact that, historically, he goes on runs. He's got 90 points in the last 3 completed seasons. There probably will be. I'd imagine we will see a what's the word I'm looking for? A response on Saturday. And if we don't, then we can really start to worry and think, shit, it's setting in. But I think we'll see a response, and I could see us knocking it. If you like, imagine we get 12 points from these next 4, which sees Norwich, Sunderland, Coventry, and Cardiff. You're going, wow, what a run that is. And I do think, and I would like to see changes next Saturday, because you've now had a full week's worth of training with everybody. And I'm talking Tanaka, I'm talking Ramazani, I'm talking Schmidt, I'm talking Solomon, I'm talking everybody has now had a full week's worth of training. I can sort of let you get by. I know you disagree, but I can sort of let you get by that we brought them in. They then went on, they then went on international duty, but now a full week. And we could see a performance that sees Leeds cook on gas. I mean, it was probably this time last season, we put 4 past Millwall, I think, or 3, whatever it was. So could that happen? Could that happen?
Of course it could, and it shouldn't. Ryan's bang on the money. You can see it, because this team is good enough. This team on paper is one of the best teams in the division, and should be in the top 2. We shouldn't be sitting in 9th place in the league. We shouldn't be behind a Sheffield United and the Burnley, who both been relegated from the Premier League and had to go through all the same stuff that we went through last year and have handled it. Like, we shouldn't have to sit behind them. Like, Sheffield United 2 points penalty deduction. They're still ahead of us at this stage. We're supposed to be ready to go in May. Everything in that dressing room on that team sheet looks like it could cook. And it has to. And that's the reality now. He has to go on runs this year. He has to make this team really hard to beat. He can lose 11 games. But he doesn't. We can't be losing and dropping points at Ellen Road so early in the season. Like, that's got to be. You come to Ellen Road.
That's something that we didn't do, did we, until the back end of the season? Ellen Road was a fortress, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And then, but you've also got international break coming up at the end of this month, another one in November, and then one in May, one in March, which ruined us last year. And if we can't come back from those breaks better, then they could really damage our season, especially the one in March, which ultimately was the one that finished off our season last year, was coming back after that international break and just not being good enough. And that can't keep happening, because that's a manager thing. Like, you don't go away for a week and come back forgetting how to play for Leeds, because you're doing it every day for months. How do you forget it? It's drilled into you. But they could absolutely catch fire. It's a good enough squad. He's a good enough manager. He's proved it in the past, but it needs to get going. We can't keep waiting. That's the problem. The question will be this, Joe, and because the framing of the question this year is very different. Last year it was, how long does Daniel Farke get as Leeds United manager? Probably the entire year, because the club was a mess. This year, how long does Daniel Farke get as manager? Well, how long is too long? And how long is too soon?
Yeah, of course. I agree.
Where's that thing? When do we do we sit down and go, if we don't act now, this could be a problem?
We cannot be in top 6. We need to be top 2. We have to be top 2.
So the question is then when? Because if you look at it right now, we are what 5
These
points
next
behind.
4 are huge. These next 4 are huge. Because I
So
would
lose to
like us
Cardiff.
if we were to change it, I would like us to do it in an international break. In all honesty,
Yeah, I think it's the best time to do it. I think to look at the next two are probably again. Not saying that we should. But I'm saying if you were going to the next two breaks are probably the logical time.
Because if we don't, what if we got
games,
4 points from the next 4? Then we're still
Exactly.
outside the top 6, in my opinion, and there's a gap creating. And I look at it and I go, "We've got 10 days now, right? Okay." Do you see what I'm saying? Or 14 days? It'll be,
I do.
So.
A lot to be said for Carlos Corberán's turgid football, isn't there? Sitting top of the table with a squad that's quarter of the value of our squad, a wage bill that's a quarter of the wage bill that we have. We talked before about getting managers that can do more with less, or get performances out of teams. And you've got Flores over in Argentina, who's about to win his first title, Bielsa's former number 2. So the games we're coming into right now, Joe, are interesting because they give us a full microcosm of the entire season. You've got a team in Cardiff who are in really bad form and you should be beating comfortably. Even away from home. Should be going and absolutely battering them. Then you've got Sheffield United and Coventry who'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. So they're your title challengers. So that'll be interesting to see what have we learned from the Burnley title challenger kind of game. And then how do we fare against the lesser teams when we're in these bad spells? Stoke City being an example of last year. Like the Burnley game was weird for me because in the review I kind of went, I didn't think anybody played badly.
No.
But there was something missing. There was just an extra 5% on every player probably would win the game. But it's now how do we handle against these sides? It's not like Stoke last year where we were just terrible all across the park. It was awful. Like we were fine, but just didn't do anything. So can they do it against Cardiff can they do it against Sheffield United and Coventry and dust off Burnley and let Burnley be the Southampton of last year? And then can they go to Cardiff and get a proper result and show people this is who we are? But to your point about the players coming in, that's a stronger looking squad now than last year in terms of individuals. He has a difficult decision on what team he picks, but it will set a marker going forward of what team he picks now at this stage. He cannot wait any longer for things. He can't sit Ramazani on the bench and go, well, he's not quite there yet. You bought him, Daniel. You wanted him and you bought him. Why are you buying players that aren't ready? You sold somebody who was ready. You've brought a player in from an area who was playing every game for them, who had a full preseason with them, should be ready to come in.
It's true.
And has looked explosive when he come in. Same with Tanaka.
I didn't understand Rothwell, Pirro, all these players before Tanaka and Ramazani didn't get it.
I didn't get the positioning. And again, I thought Ilya Grill was having a really good game. I thought the two central midfield he was better than Ampadu.
Yeah.
But I did think Ampadu probably was having the best game he's had so far this season. I thought he was much better, much higher up the park than he has been so far at the start of the season. But bringing those two on, you're like, what's the change here? What do we do? Right, we're going, okay, so more advanced number 8, fine. Rothwell's part of the team, but he is a lone player and you've got a permanent player on your bench, which is strange. Pirro, I thought, he'll make that change, but I'd kind of hoped he put Nanto into the 10 and go with 2 up front and change the middle a bit, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And took the 10 out completely. And then it was a 4-4-2, and then all of a sudden Leeds just stopped getting the ball in the middle of the park because there's no one to progress the pass.
I'd rather he'd have just changed him for Joseph rather than taking out the 10 because
that's exactly what I would have done. I would have taken Joseph off, put Pirro on, left Aronson where he is, or if you're going to bring on a winger like Ramazani, put Nanto in the 10, but keep a 10 and someone in there. But it's his own. If Daniel Farke loses his job at Leeds, it's going to be down to his own stubbornness. Like it's going to be down to persevering with stuff that isn't working and trying to prove that he's right instead of just going, feck it, it's not working, change it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a highlight of a really good manager. If you can't make it work with what you've got in the system that you're used to, but you change it up and go with something that does work. And this goes back to the old saying of you either sign players to fit your style or you change your style to fit your players. And right now, Daniel Farke's style of football is start fast, slow down, control. That's what he wants to do. Except Leeds aren't winning games when we're doing that. So it means there's a problem. If that's not working, you've brought players in, it's still not working, you've got to change that. And that's going to be up to him. Next 4 games, we'll get a good idea of what that looks like. And by the end of those 4 games, we'll be able to sit down, turn around and go, can he beat title challengers? Can he beat the teams that are down the bottom of the league? We'll know that by the end of this month. And then there's 10 games. That's a time to look at it and go, okay. And maybe they review it during this international break and then make a decision the next international break, depending on how it's going. But this is a huge month already because, again, we're 9th. We should be 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
Minimum for me.
100%. I do want to say positives and negatives. Philip says, and I did put, I do subscribe to this thinking as well. It is a player thing. They mean not being able to get through the low block defense. I think both parties have to take a little bit of blame because first half, I agree with Philip in what he's saying in terms of the system allowed us to create chances. We should have had a penalty. We should have had, 2 goals, 2 gilt-edged chances, which for me is probably more than what Burnley had when I think back. But then the second half is where the issue comes if, right, we're not creating now. So what do we do to start creating? And I think that's where you have to look at the manager, especially with the sub, when we're talking about the 10. The Pirro one is just, it's mad. Glenn says, Farke don't have the ability to adapt. Subs too late every time. Outwitted by opposition managers, similar to Bielsa in a way, only one directional thinking. Do you not think we're doing a little bit too much because Popey said it on his pod, this whole tactically inept. A manager who gets 90 plus points in the last 3 seasons is not fucking tactically inept. He's not outwitted by opposition managers because for me, Glenn, by that logic, he's outwitting every other game that he wins then. Yes, there were a few managers that had his number. You could say Russell Martin, for example. Maybe he's outwitted there. Bielsa was always outwitted by Graham Potter, for example. But does that mean if you're going to be giving the negatives, you then have to also flip it and say, well, when every other game that he wins, and remember, he's the most successful championship manager in terms of points, then he's outwitted them. And I just think, look, are we doing a little bit too much in being so overcritical? I hear your points, Joe, and no one's perfect. But when people are saying, he's only one. Yeah, extremes. Yeah,
it's jumping to extremes. It's the same with we talked about last year when it was going off the boil last year, and you have all these clickbait headlines on content, around disaster and shocking, and they're all sensationalist headlines. They're all designed to get you to click on the video. But realistically, is it really that bad? Is it really? No, it's not. But what I will say is he's not tactically inept. You don't get a job at that level if you're tactically inept. You just don't. No one in those top 2 divisions is tactically inept. Nobody. No. Any manager in there is very, very good at the level they're at. Being told by Dave, who works in Tesco, that you're tactically inept, maybe have a look at your own performance, Dave, or you're having to go at managers, different scenarios. But I'm joking. But you know what I mean? What I would say with the first point before Glenn's one about it's not a Farke thing, it's a player thing to break down a low block. It's a bit of both. The manager has to have a style and understand how to break down a low block. And I've talked about that. Either go long and bypass it or get around it, but show you've worked on trying to break it down. Which for me, I haven't seen that we're trying to figure out how to do it. The other part of it as well is last season it was Bamford or Pirro. So say Pirro, Rutter, Somerville, Nanto, and James. That was the front 4. This game, it was Solomon, Joseph, Aronson, Nanto. 4 different players, same problem. So if it's a player problem, not a manager problem, why are the different players having the exact same problem? That's when it becomes a manager problem. You've completely changed the 4, and yet you've seen the exact same problem that you've seen before, which then becomes a tactical issue for me.
Yeah, no, I hear that's fair. Yeah, no, that's a very good way of putting it across when you're changing personnel and still seeing the same issues. But to Philip's point as well, if we take the chances, but we should be creating more, I guess. If we don't take them, well, why haven't we created also, 3 and 4 chances?
But they're also his players. This is Daniel Farke's team now. So if the players can't do it, he's picked them.
Yeah. Yeah, I do just want to respond to a couple that have just come in on this topic. David, this is so unfair. I really dislike this narrative that. So what do you say for the wins this season then, where we don't have Korean Rutter?
And
it's
the
so
last
unfair.
Season they were in the team.
Exactly, it's so unfair. Yeah, it's so unfair to go. Oh, well, he just gives it. He engineers a tactical setup that allows these players to do it. So if that was the case, if it was a case of having just good players, we'd all be fucking managers. We'd all be managers. I'd be doing
different levels.
I've got friends that are good footballers. I could go, come play for me, and then just let them play. It's not as easy as that. Daniel Farke's at the elite level. You know what I mean? So to say that his whole tactical output is just give it to 2 players and think it's just not fair, man. It's not fair and disingenuous.
But again, especially when you can't pick and choose the data. If you're going to say that, you've got to use all the data. And there were plenty of games last season where we couldn't break down a low block with Cree and Ruther both in the side. So it didn't work last year. And that's when it becomes the manager's problem, because there's two players who were very good at doing it. Were very good players, but couldn't break down a low block last year. And here we are this year without those two players, and we still can't break down a low block. With different players in that position. So
100%. David Lamb says again, sorry, 4 wins from however many it is, 14 or so, not good enough on that. You make yourself, we should be front and center, but I'm not seeing it. Look, I don't subscribe to the thinking of let's go back to last season in terms of looking at length of games. This season, we've got 1 loss. That's the way I look at it. In terms of being front and center, listen, I'll live and die by that statement, but we have only played 5 games. So, yes, I would have liked us to win every game. Yes, I'd like us to be sat top of the league. We're not. But like I've said to you, and I'm never one. You might get some, and again, this isn't throwing shade, but some that form an opinion and then find it really hard to change from that. I try not to do that. Like, for me, these next 4 are crucial. And if after this next 4, we've got 4 points, or even say 1 win and 2 draws, and we're sat outside, I'd be saying, right, we need to have a conversation, because I've always maintained he's on a very short leash. I don't have an emotional attachment like I did with previous managers. So for me, it's like, I just want out of this division. And I do think Farke will get us out of this division. But I think 5 games, it's too early, Joe, right?
It is, but again, it depends on the conversation. What the question is, do Leeds need to be in the Premier League? Yeah. Is 9th place a good start if you want to get guaranteed promotion to the Premier League? No, it's not. It's a bad start. It's a bad start. And the difference in one game, like you get a draw against Burnley at home, and you're like, that's not too bad. That's 10 points. We're okay. We're moving okay. You lose though, and this is the difference. Like, Leeds need to make sure losses are draws this year and draws are wins this year. That's what they need to do to improve on last season, and that will be what he'll need to do in the next 4 games. And if you can do it, fine. But by the end of these 4 games, you'll have a decent enough sample size to go, we are now, nearly a quarter of the way into the season, and where are we? Well, we're 9th. That's not okay. For me, he needs to beat Coventry, and for me, he needs to beat Cardiff, and then maybe if he gets a draw at Sheffield United, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah.
But he can't lose.
Fair. Yeah, I tell you what, no, he definitely can't lose. Can't lose at the weekend. I do want to bring this up, mate, because obviously, remember me and you had that debate about the back 3 and all that, and it turns out you were right. But he did say after Harrogate, they have been working on different ways with which to skin a cat. Yeah, we're not seeing it, Joe.
No,
we're not seeing.
And we're not seeing the press that we saw in pre-season either. This really aggressive front 4 press. I remember again after the Schalke game, I said to you, "That's a press." We keep talking about the Leeds press. That's a press. Haven't seen it since. It's one player goes, then the next guy goes. But their trigger seems to be when the player takes his first touch, then you go. When it should be when the ball is in transition, then you go. And on his first touch, you're nailing him. But Leeds let the ball get a touch, then they make the run to him. It's reactive. I said this in the summer, and I'll say it again. 99.9% of managers will not change their system. They just don't.
Won't. And I don't think they should, because Bielsa always said, if I then start changing my ideas, they then don't believe it. Exactly. 100%.
And it's bang on. I had the exact same conversation. The kind of style I play 4-2-3-1 when I coach. And I was working on some stuff, and I did have a manager with 10 minutes to go. Turn around and say to me, we go 3 up top. And I went, no. And he went, but we need to get a goal. I was like, we'll get a goal playing the way we're playing. We just need to pay. We just need to wait. It'll come. And then he's like, but we need to change it, Jerry. And I went, yeah, but if we change it, I'm telling all the players what I've been telling them for the last 6 months doesn't work.
Yeah.
The second we change it
and
once,
that's something Bielsa always said. Like,
you can't put doubt in the players' minds. As a manager or a coach, the players need to know that you are 100% confident in what you're doing. And you can walk off after the pitch and you can say, look, we didn't win today because, we weren't aggressive enough in this area, or we didn't get enough bodies in the box. But overall, what we did was fine. But these are the reasons why you didn't win.
Yeah,
I just don't see an evolution in the Daniel Farke style of football, and I think maybe we're spoiled under Bielsa, but I would just want to see better football. I can get over a defeat if I think we've tried and played well. The weekend, you kind of walked away and just gone, it's just a boring, non-responsive second half. Where's the bollocks in it?
Yeah, I think the most the best way to encapsulate that point as well is when the fourth official put 8 minutes up and the crowd went up and then we started playing it backwards. We played it more backwards in that last 8 minutes than we did and I was thinking, what the fuck?
The wrong players are getting the stick for this, by the way. I agree with you. Completely 100% agree. But I think the wrong
singling out players, but we just kept doing it. I'm like, what?
But people are, because I've heard I've listened to all the podcasts and all the different takes.
Byram's getting a lot, isn't it?
Byram's getting hammered for going back to be, and Melior's getting hammered for the two of them passing between each other and going, look at the rest of the park when Byram has the ball. No one is moving. There is zero. Like I wrote down my notes when I was watching the game. There is zero movement off the ball in the second half. None at all. So every time Byram gets the ball and looks up, he just sees static players surrounded by Burnley jerseys. Well, I can't go forward or I lose the ball. Now, Dan Moylan made a very good point. I think it was Dan Moylan or Barron made it. He was asking the question or Barron was responding to him, was when there's no movement, sometimes we're afraid to lose the ball. It's more a case of keeping possession rather than doing that than losing the ball. Yeah. Sometimes there's an option to put the ball in the box.
Yeah,
put it in the box.
We don't do enough of that, do we?
But if not, you're not going to win the first ball, right? Aim for the 18-yard line then, and then work off seconds. So when they challenge for the header, when the ball drops, we're there pressing to get on the second ball, counter press. Let's do that. But we don't do it. We go past, and again, it's just left to the and it hangs out Sam Byram, and it hangs out Ilham Elliott, and it hangs out Joe Rodon, and it hangs out Pascal Struijk and Bogle. All of them get hung out to dry because it looks on TV, or or if you're watching the game, you're watching the ball, you're like, well, we're not going forward the ball. Then you look at the rest of the park and go, where's he going to go to? Why are they not showing for the ball? Why is there no movement? Why are players not screaming for the ball? They're just all gone away and they're standing still looking at the game. And that's passive. And that's not okay. And that, again, if I'm the manager.
That's on the players, And
I'm looking at that on the park. I am off the bench straight away to the sideline. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Get moving. Like, come on, move. But that instruction doesn't come from the sideline, which then leads me to believe that the manager's happy enough with that, which for me is a massive problem, because when you lose the game, everyone goes, well, why is Byram going backwards all the time? And they're going, because he can't go forwards.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It's a good point there. Oi, Bob's saying it. We need to be 100% sure, otherwise we won't take the risk, and that's fair. I do want to have a conversation about this because I feel like Nonto and Joseph actually are getting a free ride from a lot of people, but just to hone in on Nonto, is there a conversation needed there? Because I don't think he's been great for me anyway, Joe.
I think when we've given him the ball, he has been. He's been very good in possession. But we're not getting the ball to him enough. Again, if you look at the game at the weekend, we became a left side FC all over again, where everything was just constantly on the left-hand side of the park and nothing was going to the right-hand side. Dan James gets called out. When Dan James in the team during these moments, that's the same comment that comes in about Dan James. Take James out, he's not doing enough. Ball's not going to him. And it's not going early enough into either of the wingers, Solomon included. Again, with a low block, if you want to get around the back of them, hit the space early. Leeds don't. So how can these players get into their stride and run at people when there's no space to run into? Because we've taken too long to give them the ball in that space. So for me...
Are we missing Dan James? Are we missing your man, Dan James? Is that the problem?
Dan James is massively underrated. And
I know, I might have to...
He's effective. Look at double digits and everything last season. He's effective, especially at this level, he's effective. And we need to be effective. I don't necessarily think it's missing Dan James. I think if James has been in the side, we've been saying the same as we said in the playoffs last year around James and Craig. Was like, he's over on one side of the pitch, and Connor Roberts was the one that brought the spotlight on it last year, where he was standing like this on the far side of the park, waving to get the ball.
We're still using the left. Why, Joe? Why
left?
Why though? What is that? I know that's an instruction, but fucking why?
There's things there's managers I played for who would have said, right, the strategy's going to be, we go left the first 3, and then we go right the next 5 or 6 times. That's so we're going to basically let them think that we're all only going to go down the left, so that they start to slowly kind of reposition themselves, and then we nail them on the right-hand side. Except for Leeds, it's left-hand side, left-hand side, left-hand side, left-hand side, left-hand side. It's like, is there any chance of switching the play, lads? And getting it to where the play in space. And Nonto has been in acres in the first couple of games this season, and we're just not getting the ball to him. Same with Aronson in the 10, not getting enough of the ball. When he does get the ball, he looks like he'll create something, but it's too slow. It's not getting to them when they're in space. And then when we do get it to them, it's all get up that end of the pitch. It's all on the left-hand side of the park. So I think it's a little bit unfair. I think they've both been fine. I think Joseph has been fine. He's been adding other things to the game as well outside of scoring, so he's been doing okay. But again, these questions pop up when you don't score a goal.
Yeah. There is another comment I want. Oh, Dominic Martin with the super chat actually says, "Are we confident that we'll go on a run?" I'm not. Not on the basis of the last 5 games. We need to finish the chances we're creating. We should got a 9. I think just to answer that, am I confident we're going to run? Yes. I mean, you could argue, prior to this defeat, we were undefeated in 4. Yeah, I do think we will go on a run. And if we don't, and we're not knocking teams, bam, 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 then questions will be asked. Because as I've said, front and centre, we need to win games of football. So yeah, there is that. And again, when you mentioned just on the basis of the last 5 games, and this is where you can't have it both ways. For those people that keep saying it's 4 wins in 14, I give you the 90-point trophy. You can't tell me that, we've got 4 in 14, but then I can't celebrate 90 points, which is what a lot of yous do. A lot of yous will go, I didn't do anything. Well, you can't say we got 90. You can't be critical of those that say we got 90 points, but then also use last season as a barometer for this. Do you know what I mean? It's exactly the same. Sorry, Jeff.
Didn't someone say that we weren't good this year because the opposition goalkeeper hadn't gotten man of the match?
Yeah,
Burnley's goalkeeper got man of the match, and we were awful.
Exactly. Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah,
so Burnley's goalkeeper was the man of the match of the game of the weekend, which, if we go off what that comment was, would suggest that Leeds were the best team on the park. Leeds were brilliant. But we weren't. We were garbage in the second half.
And he didn't pull off any worldies, did he?
He did exactly what he had to do.
Right place, right time. Yeah, he was just
did exactly what he had to do. The save with Joseph looks better than it is. He's comfortable when he gets down to that.
Yeah, exactly. He says we need to finish the chances we're creating. We should have got a 9. But then in response to that, when you mention in capitals, finish the chances we're creating, again, the manager's creating them. So then it's a player issue, Dominic. And then I guess that's why you're saying we should have got a 9. And I also agree with you, by the way. I do think we should have got someone to help shoulder the burden, because if Joseph has to be like I spoke to Connor about this, I keep mentioning it. What if Joseph got injured in training this week, Joe? We're fucked. Aren't we? We are, though, aren't we?
It might force us into a different player to play up there, and it might work. Maybe sometimes being forced into a situation gives you the change that you need. I think Pirro will do okay in this system because it's a lot higher up. When we do get there, it's a lot more compact, and I think that kind of suits him. I think Pirro would be okay in this number 9. Again, if you look at Aronson, he tends to be quite close to Joseph. Where if you go back to last year when when Rutter was playing in the 10, he was never really close to number 9, but he was always around getting the ball and creating stuff. Where now you've got Aronson much higher up the park, closer to the number 9. So maybe it forces Pirro to go into that number 9. It might work in the new system slightly. Maybe.
David says, what system would you apply if not for a 2-3-1? Can I just throw mine in the hat? And I did hear this from Gary and from Connor. 4-1-4-1 with Ampadu on his own, and then you could have Tanaka, Rothwell, Tanaka, Tanaka, Aronson. Then you've got 2 wingers, and then obviously Joseph up top.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's tricky at this level. If you look at a lot of different levels of football, you'll see 4-4-2 is still played, like League 1, League 2, 4-4-2, League of Ireland, 4-4-2, certain level 4-4-2 is played. But if you're in the top leagues like Premier League and Championship, if you decide to not play 4-2-3-1 and remove that additional midfielder, you potentially lose the midfield battle in the game and you've lost the game. And that's why sometimes 4-2-3-1 is nearly just played out in necessity, because I kind of have to have a third midfielder in there somewhere. I like a 4-2-3-1 for different reasons, but Leeds don't do it the way I would do it. The 4-2-3-1 is a very good system because it can be multiple systems with very little effort to change them. So with a 4-2-3-1, if you want to get more defensive, you just pull one of your 2 pivots back in. You've got a 5, you put 1 in the middle, you've got 5 and a 1, and you bring your 2 wingers back in, and you make a 4. If you got 5-4-1, you can make it a 4-3-3 by pushing your wingers in a bit and push them a little bit higher on. Bring your midfielder back in, push your 6 a bit higher up. You've got a 4-3-3. So it can do both things, but Leeds don't seem to do anything with that. I personally would like to see the 3 at the back. And then just let the rest of the team play. I think a 3-4-3 would suit me perfectly. Still gives us the width and the cover for defensive stuff. We don't get caught in counterattacks. Playing with wing backs, so Bogle and Ferbo kind of in their element, but they still have a little bit of defensive responsibility. And then you've got 2 kind of inverted wingers that are playing in there a little bit more narrow. With the width being given to your fullbacks. So 3-4-3 for me would be the other system that I would play, but I don't have a huge issue with the system. I think I have an issue with how it's played. 4-1-4-1 works really, really well as well if you've got a very good single pivot like we had with Calvin, who can pass balls, and we've got that in Ampadu. But the speed of his passing is going to need to be faster. Because again, if you look when Cooper did it,
are you still on that thing of him slowing it all down and
less this weekend? But he does still do it. He does like to roll his stud. Like somebody said, he had Messi syndrome, which was a clip went around a couple of weeks ago of him saying Ampadu's got Messi syndrome. Every time he got the ball, he would roll the studs and turn inside and turn back outside and turn back inside. And like that looks lovely, Ethan, but you've waited 3 seconds. Now the defense has dropped deeper. But if you look when Calvin Phillips would get it from Leeds, not all the time, but sometimes if he passed into him, it was one touch out his feet, look up, bang. Where now it's tip, and that's just too easy to defend against. It's just way too easy to defend against. So yeah, 4-1-4-1 works really well because again, it can be a 4-2-3-1 or it can be a 4-3-3 or it can change easily in a game depending on how the game's going.
Yeah. With Cardiff on the horizon, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions going into that, Joe?
I don't know, but I want to win. I want a comfortable win, and I want to see a performance as well. Like that's the biggest thing for me. I want to see us show up and batter somebody. Do the attacking side that we did against Portsmouth, defend better. That's what I want to see from Leeds. I want to see a Leeds team that goes forward, with pace, with tempo, and worries oppositions. I don't want what we've had so far with the odd 10-minute fluster here and there, a bit of tempo, because when we do turn it on, we're very, very good. It's just not been on long enough. So I want to see a performance where Leeds get at them faster, a lot more tempo, and I want to see him use his squad this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Agree with that. Yeah. Well, they're bottom of the table after 5 games. Like, if you're not going to get a statement win against anybody, they've not won a match. They're going to sack their manager.
Do you know what? They've conceded 11 goals as well and scored 1. Yeah. You've got to batter them. Yeah. I know. Imagine if they sack the manager, then I'll be worried. I can't lie to you.
Do you know what? This is ultimately his excuses need to go away. International break excuse needs to go away. Right? Not having the players that you wanted needs to go away. You got them now, right?
Yeah.
And this thing as well about, they got a new manager bounce. Fuck that. Go and win the game of football. You're a top manager with a top side. Go win the game of football.
It's true. I'm just looking at this, like this time last season. Obviously, we'd beat Millwall, we'd beaten Watford, both 3-0 scorelines. You need something similar. Yeah, we put 4 past Ipswich. You need something similar, don't you? Not a shitty, scrappy 1-0 win. Yeah, there you go. Paul G says, what exactly, just let me respond to this. What exactly does Joe think he does? I don't think I do anything. I lift it up because everyone said 90-point trophy. Like, I don't think we did anything with it. It's a good barometer of a manager, though, to say that he got 90 points.
Means you're thereabouts.
And 90 points would be enough. Last season was the anomaly. It is every other season 90 points gets you up because only 2 teams get 90 points in a regular season. That's the whole point of it. There's only been 2 seasons in the history of the Championship where 90 plus points wouldn't get you up, and that was us and Sunderland back in whenever. So every other season, 90 points would see you go up. The anomaly last season was that 3 teams got it. Almost 4, because Southampton got 87. So they were 1 win. That would have been like unheard of, that 4 teams get 90 plus points. There's for me, West Brom won't have the staying power because they don't have the depth for squad. Burnley, they haven't been great, folks. They've created next to nothing in terms of XG. Yes, they're defending well, and they defended well against us. Sheffield United have a good 11. Let's see what injuries. I'm still not concerned. If we now went on a losing run and we didn't bounce back, then of course, questions will be asked. But I still think we'll get 90 points over the course of the season. Last 3 completed seasons of Farke gets you 90. We'll probably do that and again, and we'll probably go up. I've maintained this. Doesn't mean he's exempt from criticism, though.
No.
But yeah, definitely. And if it ever becomes the norm, then we can have a conversation. But right now, it's not. It wasn't when we were down there previously. It wasn't You know, even when Burnley got 100+ points, there was only two teams that got 90, which were Burnley and Sheffield United. No one else did. There's normally a gap, and I believe that'll be the case again. But hey ho, it is what it is. We move. Yeah, we move. And Peekaboo, I can see you got your claws out. You don't like Farke. I do. I'm not going to get him tattooed on me and all this sort of stuff. At least be thing. But my point is, just relax. And if you want to use that stat, you can. But my point is, you then can't go, well, 90 points. You can use whatever you want. But if I say 90 points and someone's response is, well, it didn't get you shit, I'll go, okay. But you're also using games from last season, which is what I'm using to say that it'll be a success. So we're both doing the same. You can't. Do you see what I'm saying?
Same as the Melier thing. It's the same as the Melier argument. When Leeds keep a clean sheet, it's not Melier that got to collect the clean sheet. It was the defense. But when we conceded a load of goals, it wasn't the defense's fault. It was Melier's.
Yeah.
You can excuse things and make a narrative. Also, same form 14. Yeah, you can say it. But the teams that are in this division are different than we were last year. We played different teams already that weren't here last year. The players in the teams that were here last year are different this year, as are ours. So they're not comparative. When you look at all of the factors, they're not. It's just an easy stat to rattle off. There's nothing this season's block to be worried about without bringing last year into the equation. You know, we've dropped 4 points in Ellen Road already. We've lost 2 matches in Ellen Road this year. We've conceded too many goals at home this year. There's enough there to be worried about without bringing last year's results into the equation. Like, you know, full season behind you, an entire preseason behind you, the players you wanted, 3 transfer windows. There's plenty to criticize without going, last season and wasn't great either, was it? No, you know what I mean? There's enough this year to go, there's a problem here, Farke. Fix it.
Yeah. Statement win on Saturday will do just that. Not just for me, not just for Joe, but for Leeds and for the fan base as well. And we can all just relax.
If he doesn't, Joe, if we just about beat them or don't beat them, what happens then?
If we don't beat them, it's really, really like worrying. It depends on the manner, right? So like if it's the same again and they get us from a set piece corner, let's say, you know, and they beat us 1-0 and it's the same again, then we need to go, oh my God, like this, is there a real issue here? Because then the rut starts to set in. Yeah, but I think we will. But I dread to think if we don't. I think the knives will be seriously out. Yeah.
And that's why I think this season's pressure is completely different for Farke, because,
and I think he's aware of that as well, isn't he?
But he's aware of that. Yeah, because I think he's making excuses, or at least he's lining them up. You know, the 10. You know, when did you mention the 10 outside of the last week of the window? You mentioned everything else. When you were interviewed in Germany, you listed 4 players. When you came back to the UK, you listed 4 players. When you got those 4 players, you wanted 1 more. You didn't get that, and that's the reason for the window being a failure. Sorry, mate. You know, losing Rutter, Cree, and Archie, fair enough. But you brought in Ramazani, Solomon, and Jaden Bogle, who was still, outside of a couple of iffy performances, probably still one of the best fullbacks in the division. I think he's getting a lot of unnecessary stick. I agree with Dan Moylan on this situation. I think Bogle was trying to split the 2 attackers and just hesitates a slight bit too long for the goal. But I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, but that's where the issue. But
half a second. If I was in a situation,
still I'm annoyed at him for
it. The question mark is why is he the defender? Like, come here, I've had people say to me, "Where was Bogle?" I went, back defending, and then another person said to me, "Well, Bogle should have been back there." Like, he was.
Someone said to me, "It's Firpo. It came from left side." I said it was a corner.
It was our corner.
It's in the corner. You're not going to have him in left back position on the corner. You know,
Solomon slips, your man runs through and scores. That's the end.
Exactly.
Like, that's just the end of it.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Look, we will be there, and I think we'll beat Cardiff comfortably, and then hopefully take that into Fortress Ellen Road against Coventry, because that will be a very tough game. Very tough game. And then we've got to go to Stadium Alight, and then we've got to play Norwich. It's not getting easier. It's not getting easier, but Saturday is easy. I'm sorry. I know there's no easy games, but it's not acceptable that Leeds don't win this game.
Get the results that you're looking for. We're top of the table by the time we get to the next international break.
Yeah. I'll get all the flowers, Paul, because I can see everyone being critical and giving me stick. And when we start winning games, I'll fucking wind them all up and throw it in their faces. You know who you are. I'm coming for you.
But I don't think you're blankly backing a manager, and I don't think we're also saying sack the manager. I think we're both saying, well, looking at the evidence of where we are so far after a year and a bit, is it where it needs to be to get Leeds automatic promotion? Because that's the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. The league's not great. The league quality is nowhere near on previous seasons. 100% stand by that point. But we will be there. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there, Joe. Great chat. Thanks as always for giving up your time. Have you got anything anything on your channel you want to?
Yeah, the news is out today. That's gone up before we started this. That's gone out today. A few bits on, again, 49ers expectations, a couple of pieces around what the 49ers expect from Leeds this season. Gruev helping Cooper out on his move to Sofia. And we've long watched as well. And then
he
had a chat with him, gave him some advice before he made the move. And then you've got myself, Jerry McDermott, and Lockie did a review to the Burnley game last night, and then I did kind of a video review on Saturday as well. They're all on the channel there. You can check them out if you want to.
Good stuff. Make sure you check it out, folks, over at Leeds United The View. I think I'll be on later on, actually, with Luke, and we're tackling the topic of whether or not Leeds United are spoilt because of Bielsa. Are we a spoilt fan base? Should be a good chat. Anyway, see you later on, and make sure you go check out Joe. Bye-bye, folks.